war, some of the most dangerous places aren't front lines. They are the spaces where truth is told. This week, that truth came under direct fire. al-Sharif, a young Al Jazeera journalist from Gaza, was killed alongside 4 colleagues in what the network calls a targeted assassination. For many Palestinians, his voice was their lifeline, and now it has been silenced. Today, we piece together what happened, why it happened, and what it means for journalism in conflict zones, using accounts from eyewitnesses, Al Jazeera, the BBC, and those who knew him best.
Another Israeli extrajudicial killing, and right in front of all of us. And it's really devastating. And the world is letting Israel continue with its crimes against the journalists. So they are targeting the journalists, and it's really devastating.
That's Tarid Alcott, a former New York Times reporter, now speaking from Cairo. She describes the killing as part of a broader campaign, not just against individuals, but against the Palestinian narrative itself. In past conflicts, Israel controlled much of the international storyline, but this time, thanks to local journalists like al-Sharif, the world has been seeing raw, unfiltered coverage from inside Gaza. That reach and credibility made him a target.
It seems clear now, it's been confirmed not just from Gaza but by the Israel Defense Forces, the IDF themselves, that they hit the Al Jazeera tent in the grounds of the Al-Shifa Hospital in Gaza City. So the 2 Al Jazeera correspondents, Anas al-Sharif and Mohammed Karaika, have been killed, along with 2 cameramen and a driver who came, I think, from a local video provider.
This wasn't a battlefield crossfire. According to multiple sources, the strike hit a tent for reporters outside Al-Shifa Hospital, the last fragile refuge for that team after months of famine, rubble, and relentless bombardment. Killing journalists, there isn't just an attack on individuals, it's an attack on the act of bearing witness itself.
Al Jazeera is accusing Israel of wanting to silence somebody with an important voice and silence coverage that is coming out of Gaza at this extremely important time. Of course, this is happening just as Israel is threatening to start its new military offensive in Gaza City and threatening to force 1 million people who are currently living there to make their way southwards, they say, so that they can go and take over the entirety of the city and make sure that it is free of Hamas.
The Israeli military insists al-Sharif was a Hamas operative, even producing spreadsheets they claim prove it. Al Jazeera calls them fabricated. Independent verification is impossible, and that's the point. Foreign media can't enter Gaza, so local journalists are the only eyes and ears on the ground. Remove them, and you remove the witness. You erase the record.
Let me start by asking, what do you think the reason for these killings was?
Silencing a journalist who was the only voice left in Gaza City, reporting and uncovering the atrocities there.
Mawad calls al-Sharif the voice of the voiceless. He had millions of followers online, and his footage was used by major outlets worldwide, including the BBC, CNN, and the New York Times. His death, Mawad says, is part of a pattern. Over 200 Palestinian journalists have been killed since the war began, with no international reporters allowed in.
Israel has proved to be the master of disinformation, and everybody knows that, and people are not stupid anymore. And now it's the role of international media, whenever they host the Israeli narrative, is to question, not taking everything as a fact. And we paid a price. Palestinians in Gaza, journalists in Gaza, civilians in Gaza have paid a heavy price because of the lack of responsibility from the international mainstream media. Because from the beginning of the genocide, they took what Israel fed them as a fact.
Imagine risking your life to document events the world needs to see, then getting a direct call from a military force telling you to stop. For some, it's enough to move behind the camera. For others, like al-Sharif, it was a reason to keep going. This is the paradox of war reporting. The closer you get to the truth, the closer you get to danger. When a journalist is killed, we don't just lose a person, we lose the stories they would have told, stories that might have shaped our understanding, challenged our assumptions, or even changed the course of events. Anas al-Sharif's lens showed the world what life looked like inside Gaza's most devastated neighborhoods. Now, that lens has been shattered. If you believe journalism should never be a death sentence, share this story. And subscribe so you don't miss the next one, because the fight for truth isn't over, and neither is our coverage.